just like the other ones, we are solving for x. There is a 0 this time. It's not going to change our basic setup, but it is going to change how we finish. Need to identify a, b, and c. A is 3, c is -8, so we'll have -24 up top. B is -2. We'll get -6, +4. Watch that negative. When we drop it in, you'll get x minus 6, and you'll get x plus 4 as my two factors. And again, they are equal to 0. This is going to change how we finish this problem. I need to divide by a. A was 3. This reduces, so we're going to reduce that, x minus 2. This does not reduce at all, so I'm going to slide that 3 to the front. And then as the final step, because it's equal to 0, I have two numbers. I have x minus 2, it could be 0. And I have 3x plus 4. It could also be 0. And then I just solve. Add the 2 to both sides. You'll get x is equal to +2. Subtract the 4 from both sides. And then of course divide that 3 off. And you'll get x is equal to -4/3. Number 18 is just like the previous problem. Let's take a look. Just like the previous problem, number 10. I know, my bad. Number 11. It's already factored. Alright, it's already factored. It's already ready to go. It looks exactly like we want it to. So don't do anything crazy like FOIL this out. It is ready to be answered right now. I have two numbers. I have 3x minus 2 and I have 2x plus 1. These two numbers are being multiplied together and their product is 0. Since that's true, one of the two numbers has to be 0. So we take them, we set it up. A lot of you guys love to skip that equal to 0 part. That's a dangerous choice. Do not skip the equal to 0 part. If there's a fraction, it is very likely that you will miss one of those steps doing it all in your head. That's a lot of math to be pulling all at once. It is possible to do. I agree. But it is challenging to do all at once when you're doing all these other steps. Number 19, setting up the x for you guys that need it. Remember that the b value is 0. A is 1, C is -36, so we'll have -36 outside. -6 and +6 will do that. They multiply together to be -36. They add together to be 0. So I'll get x minus 6, x plus 6, and this is equal to 0. Divide that a value off. Again, even though it's 1, I really like the practice. Alright, at this point, we've got two numbers. We've got a minus 6, a plus 6, and they are both multiplied together to be equal to 0. So I've got two choices. Either one is fine. A could be +6 or a could be -6. However you want, or x could be -6. However you want to do that. Number 20, just like one of the previous problems, it's not equal to 0. Alright, it's not equal to 0. It looks very similar to this one, number 11. Number 11 is not equal to 0. So we want to change it to make it equal to 0. I'm going to pull that 18 from both sides. I'm going to get x squared minus 7x minus 18. It'll be equal to 0. And then I'm going to set up my x. I got 1 times -18. I've got -7 as my b value. There we go. And I need two numbers. -9 and +2 will work. And I'm going to set it up. I've got x minus 9. I've got x plus 2. Make sure we divide that a value off. Again, sometimes when it's 1, it's not going to change anything, but it's great practice to be in. And then I've got x minus 9 could be 0. I've got x plus 2 could be 0. And just finishing that problem off, it's a lot of steps. None of the steps are particularly challenging. We talk about this all the time in class. No one step is hard to do. All this math is pretty easy. All the steps and why we do them are fairly easy to understand. However, doing them all at once, knowing what steps to do when, is critical. This one's factored by grouping. It's a little weird. I'm going to get out my second pen color here. Let's see if it's orange. Yeah, orange. You've got two groups of numbers. There are 4 terms. And this is where it gets, this is that last one. It's a little bit different from the other ones. You have 4 terms. It's going to mean we approach it a little bit differently. Right, we don't have an a and a b value. We've got 4 terms. There's nothing in common to all of them. They don't all have an x. They don't all have a number we can pull out. There are 4 terms. You're going to grab those first 2 and see what's common. I know I can grab an x squared out of those first 2. I'm going to get an x plus 4 left. In the second grouping, I'm going to get a 3 that's common. They both have a 3. And when I pull that 3 out, I have an x plus 4 left. So you'll notice I have x squared of this number, and I'm going to add 3 more of that same number. So this is how much of the number I have. I have x squared of this number, and I'm going to add 3 more of that same number. And then in the back, I'm going to have my number, x plus 4. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of show you again why this works this way. If I had, this is an example, I'm making it up. Alright? Down here, I'm making this up as a casual heads up. Don't want anyone to get crazy on me. Let's say I've got 7x plus 4x. This means I have 7 of my number, and I'm going to add 4 more of my number. The difference between this problem and the one that we just did is you know what 7 and 4 are, and x is not exactly an intimidating variable. It's just x. Alright? Over here, instead of 7, we had x squared. Instead of 4, we had 3. And instead of our regular variable x, we're adding 4 to x. Whatever x was, we were adding 4 to it. Now this is easy to do. You say that 7 plus 4 is 11. Alright? And then you slap the x on the back. And that, for most of you, is very, very easy to do. The only difference up here from down here, the upper part, you're simply not adding the 7 and the 4 together because you don't know exactly what it is. You don't know exactly what x squared is. So when we add it to 3, it doesn't finish out and clean up. Alright? So you're doing the 4 plus 7 to get the 11. We're just not finishing it because we don't know what that 4 plus 7 is. Anyway, that's how that one works. This one over here, grab those first 2. In common, they have an x squared. We'll get a 2x minus 3 left. Grab the second 2. In common, they have a 2. You get a 2x minus 3. And notice, both of these back end quantities match. That's critical. They have to match for us to be able to do this. So I'm going to get how much I have. I've got x squared, and I've got a 2. So I've got x squared plus 2 of my quantity. And which quantity do I have? I've got x squared minus 3. So I'm going to slap that in the back there. And that's how we do the factor by grouping. Oh, I boxed the other answer just to be safe.